and bienvenue to Mr. C History. And I am in France, of course, specifically Brittany in northwest France, even more specifically in the town of Carnac. And Carnac is famous for these, the megaliths, the standing stones, or as they're known here, the aliments. These ancient stones stretching off for miles in the distance over there. Let's go and have a quick look at them, look at the history. What are they? Why are they here? It's all a bit of a mystery. Now, first and foremost, let's talk about what actually are they. Well, these are the alignments, the aliments. There are other forms of stones here. There's dolmens, tumuli, and menhirs, which we'll talk about in a minute. But these are the aliments. They're made from local granite, so the rocks do come from nearby here. But what's so extraordinary about them is the sheer number and the size. I am at the end of one of the main aliments. This goes on for another 1,100 meters, over a kilometer of these lines. There's 11 rows in total, and it's 100 meters wide, and there's more beyond that. There's also rocks and bits of it strewn all over the countryside. I mean, I saw one being used as a sort of fence, a gate to somebody's house as well. So they're really, really extraordinary how well they're used. Now, how old are they? So they are Neolithic. The Neolithic period started 7,000 BC. They're not quite that old. It's about 3,300 BC is the main consensus as they are. But there is some suggestion that some of these stones date back to 4,500 BC. So there's a sort of 1,000-year period when these stones were made. Down at the eastern end, the stones are quite a bit smaller, but I think this is quite a good place to talk about the linear and the line of it. You know, what is that? That's rather very interesting. Why are they in such straight lines? Why are they here? That's a very, very big question. There's some great local legends. One is that Merlin, the great wizard, a friend of King Arthur, he froze soldiers in these positions who wanted to attack local areas. Similarly, some of the early Christian myths put forward that these are pagan soldiers solidified by Pope Cornelius, I think it was, in his attack. Could they be solidified soldiers? Some of these stones are massive. They're like, some of them are 13 feet high. I think they get a bit shorter the more east you go. Maybe the bigger stones are here. But in fact, actually, there is a giant one. This is the Giant of Manio, and it is indeed huge. It's 6.5 meters high, or 21 feet. And we're a good 5 or 6 kilometers from where I started, the beginning of the aliment, as it were, or the end. And so it's the extent of these stones is incredible. Imagine these ancient people not only building such an extensive piece, but something so high. Now there is a taller piece even further away, amazing, further extent to this, but that has fallen over. This is the only one still standing. In reality though, this also had fallen over. They just built it up again in 1900. Just around the corner from the giant is this incredible set of stones. It's called a quadrilateral. It's rectangular in shape, almost like a building of some sort. I'm not suggesting it is, because they haven't found much evidence of that from the excavation, but so may it just be lined up again. But why is it in this shape? And why is it again hidden in the woods out here so much? The mystery deepens. Amongst the stones are also these things. These are called dolmens. They're essentially small burial grounds with what is known as a capstone on top, and these other smaller ones holding up. This is actually quite a large and extensive one. It goes all the way into the back there. Now originally it would have had earth around it, a mound of earth, but that's obviously all gone. And of course there would have been a body in there. But it's interesting that the soil here in Brittany is quite acidic, and actually the bones have been completely eaten away. So they found no bones in here when they've excavated it, but they have found trinkets and things like that. But this is one of the smaller burial mounds. There are bigger ones for even greater people. Carnac is home to several tumuli. Now tumuli are similar to dolmens in that they are burial grounds, but on a much grander scale. Look at the size of this one. This is the tumulus at Saint-Michel. There's a church on top, so let's go and have a look. There's been a church at the top of this tumuli since about the 1660s, but I want to talk more about the actual mound itself. It is huge, highest point of Carnac now. This was clearly the burial mound for a very significant person, because initially only one person was buried here. They did some subsequent mining and they found a few peripheral graves around the side, maybe this person's family, but it's obviously a very significant person, probably a king. Not quite the right word to use for such Neolithic people, but clearly very, very important. Furthermore, they found some amazing artifacts when they did the excavations here. They found some jewellery made from turquoise from northern Spain, and they found jade that had come from the Italian Alps, hundreds and hundreds of miles away from here. So clearly Carnac was a very important trading place, a hubbub of peoples, and just over there, that's probably why these stones are here and why they are so extensive. Now I'm outside a branch of Monsieur Bricolage, a sort of garden centre, DIY kind of place. Why? Well, because this was built in 2023 and controversially they had to destroy and remove some of the stones. Now these stones are everywhere, and this is actually quite an interesting thing to talk about, preservation and how they've been dealing with the stones. So for many, many years they were left quite abandoned, and people would just go up and chip away at the stones, use them to build their houses. And so there are some old houses and churches around here which would have bits of the stones from it within them. And it wasn't really until the late 20th century, really, where they started to protect them. And now there's a fence around them, so you can only go and see them on a tour, for example. And they're worried about them being overgrown by all the bracken and the brambles and stuff, so they've employed sheep and goats in order to eat away at the vegetation which could destroy it. It can spark an interesting debate. How far do you go to protecting such an extensive area, loads and loads and loads, but people need services all the time? But in all seriousness, why are they here? Well, there's various different theories put forward. Of course, ultimately we will never know. There's no written evidence of what's going on here. But most of it seems to be involving with either the sun or the stars. So the sun element is sort of the kind of matches up with the sunset and the sun rises as it sort of sweeps across the land, and of course the solstices as well, like in Stonehenge in England. So perhaps it's part of the ritual of the local people who are here. One obviously thing is that this is clearly a significant area for the Neolithic. So this is a sort of Neolithic metropolis. Now I'm not saying that this was a city of some sort, because there are no real examples, excavations of items that you would find, but maybe that's part of it. One interesting theory put forward is that these are actually almost measuring posts, something called the megalithic yard, where it's almost like they're so uniform that you can measure a distance between them. So it was a measuring device for the Neolithic people. Rather interesting. But probably the most common theory is the idea that they resemble the stars, and they are used to either measuring the stars, worshipping the stars, or using the stars in some way, almost a Milky Way approach of what's going on there. But ultimately we will never know. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed that. Please let me know what you think about why they are here. Please don't forget to press subscribe. I'll see you on the next one. Merci beaucoup.